All right, so you feel like you wrote a great script. You filmed a killer video and you got your packaging all right. Title and thumbnail. Your audience showed up and clicked, and then boom, retention fell off a cliff. Today I'm talking about how to achieve retention at all costs, so this never happens again. I've spent over 15 years creating videos, 15 years filled with blood, sweat, and a whole lot of tears. Okay, mostly just tears, all in the relentless pursuit of perfecting my video retention at all costs. And today I'm sharing everything I've ever learned so you can skip the tears and get right to the results. First, my viewers were falling off right at the beginning of my video, but I was able to fix that. Then they were dropping off before even making it to the end of my video, and it felt like all my hard work was going to waste. So I was able to tackle that problem too. Then I started noticing random drops and dips in the middle of my videos. Frustrated, I went back to the lab, and each time I returned to the drawing board, I made some pretty awesome discoveries, and I was able to implement some impactful changes. But I was missing something, and then it hit me. My videos weren't fully cooked. It was like making a beautiful pie and never putting it in the oven. I had all the necessary ingredients, but I needed to get my videos across the finish line. I was obsessing over it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Audiences came so far. Why did they leave right away? Well, let's break it down and think about their journey and how fast it happens. They search, see, read, click, and then decide, often within seconds. And if that decision is to leave, we might want to have a closer look at our introductions. Have you ever heard the old saying, you never get a second chance at a first impression? It's an important one. If your audience shows up to the rave party, and when they open the door, all they see is old people playing bingo, I think you know what comes next, right? They're gone. We didn't keep the promise that was on the party invitation. Now picture this. Not only is it a rave party, but you greet them at the door with a smile, introduce them to the DJ, and show them where all the best food and drinks are. Think they might stick around now? Many video creators call this the hook. Around here, we like to call it the honey because we want to entice viewers in and we want them to stick around. Whatever you call it, let's show them that they're in the right place and there's a reason to stick around and watch what happens next. Another great way to keep that promise is for the first 5 seconds of your video to match the packaging. You know, that title and thumbnail that you took all of that time and energy to create. You ever notice when you hover over a video from a great creator in the suggested area that it autoplays a little bit, and that autoplay often represents the title and thumbnail literally, and it draws you in? Keep that in mind when you're making your videos. Also make sure that you state the concept in the beginning to reinforce to your audience that they're in the right spot. Do you remember what I said in the first 5 seconds of this video? All right, so you feel like you wrote a great script. Filmed a killer video and... All right, before we dive into the middle section of retention strategies, let's tackle the end retention fall-off problem, where viewers often drop off. Don't worry, we'll circle back and cover all of the middle retention drop-off strategies because that's where all the magic happens. Oftentimes we see a pretty dramatic drop-off at the end of our videos. This is relatively normal, but if there's something that we can do to minimize this drop-off, we should do it, right? Especially if it better serves our audience. Here are a couple quick tips to bump up the retention at the end of your videos. Number 1, don't wind down. Many times towards the end of a video, you can literally feel the creator starting to wind down and close out the video. They start speaking a little slower, saying things like, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next, blah, blah, blah. Just don't do it. Simply end the video. Watch until the end of this video to see how I pull this off. Number 2, don't ask for things now that your video is over. If you want people to comment below, click on a link in the description, subscribe, like, ask for it more in the middle of your video. Ask for it quickly and make the ask make sense. Like right now, I'll ask you to hit that like button down there if you're enjoying this video, since I just happen to be talking about the topic of when's a great time to ask for things, and this is the middle of my video. If you have any surprises, reveals, giveaways, or bonuses, wrap up with those. If I'm going to purposefully stay around to the end of a video, it's going to be for a specific reason, like receiving the last tip in a listicle or finding out how everything ends. Okay, now for the middle of video retention. We call it the meat of your script. In this part, I'm going to cover a lot and fast. There are no perfect strategies here, so I'm just going to share some of the things that have worked for me over the years to keep people interested in sticking around during the middle of my videos. Many of the reasons that attention might fall off in the middle of your videos falls into one category or bucket, and that is engagement. So that's what I'm going to cover. I've got a full toolbox of strategies to keep your viewers hooked, and now we're going to open it up and show you the tools we rely on. Tools that have saved our videos time and time again. Oh, people aren't gonna like this first one. First up is scripting. I can feel the cringing and the eye rolls through the screen, and I'm sure some people probably just clicked away. But I'm telling you, 90+% of the video content that you enjoy watching or consuming is scripted in some form. Have you noticed in this very video that I haven't said a single had to stall, search for a thought, or sound like I'm making things up as I go? Yeah, that's because this video was written with great thought and care long before I ever hit record on the camera. This is why anytime anyone ever asks me how long a video should be, my answer is always the same. If it's good, it doesn't matter. Alright, next up is B-roll. On the surface, B-roll is secondary footage that plays over top of the A-roll or main footage, in my case, over top of me talking in my studio, and it's generally used to support or drive home the main points being made in a video. You can also use B-roll as kind of like a band-aid to cover up mistakes in your videos as well. There are many different websites and places that you can find stock footage to use in your videos, and I'm generally a fan of this, especially when you use stock footage creatively as opposed to conventionally in your videos. But you can create your own B-roll as well. Here's an example. Would you rather see this when I'm talking about typing emphatically because I have a deadline coming up fast? Or would you rather see this when I say that I'm typing emphatically because I have a deadline coming up fast? Don't be afraid to create your own B-roll to make your videos more engaging and let your audience get to know you a little bit better too. That B-roll you just saw earlier, I shot that with my smartphone. Speaking of visuals, what if I told you that you can make your video look like it was shot with multiple cameras even if you're only using one? Next up, use multiple angles. I know, you're probably sitting there thinking it's hard enough to film and edit with one camera, Dan. Now I have to use multiple cameras to get multiple angles? Having more than one camera isn't the only way to make it seem like you have more than one angle. For all of my videos, I use one camera and a couple small tricks to get the same effect as using multiple cameras. First up, I shoot in 4K and distribute in 1080p HD, which means my original image is much larger than it needs to be. That means I can zoom in a certain amount and not lose any quality on the screen. So when I'm filming a normal talking headshot like this, I can punch in and make a point. I can punch back out to my original shot. I can slowly zoom in to draw attention through movement and maybe make my shot more dramatic, especially when I have something super important to say. I can zoom all the way in and highlight something really important that I want to tell you up close, and then even slide over to the side and use a visual aid to drive home my points. Punch out, punch in, slow zoom, fast zoom, side slide, and of course, you can use a jump cut to go back to your original angle. Next up, pattern interrupt. A pattern interrupt is pretty literal, interrupting the pattern of what's been going on. It's a powerful component of any story, and it's a great way to recapture attention and keep things fresh and interesting, like how I just changed my shirt to finish out this video. Here's just a couple of examples of great pattern interrupts. First up, surprises. Doing something unexpected is such a fun way to keep audiences entertained and engaged throughout your video. It can be as simple as introducing an element on screen like this surprise confetti, or as complex as changing into a completely new shirt and matching up the clip seamlessly to achieve the effect. Next up is motion graphics. Oftentimes we use very literal on-screen graphics to drive home important points during our videos. But remember, you can use almost anything on screen to interrupt and entertain your audience as well. Last, but certainly not least, sound effects or sound design. Oftentimes, sound effects are a really simple yet effective way to interrupt the pattern of a normal, boring video and add some quality to your video production. Have you noticed all the sound effects I've been using during this section of my video? I am sure you have figured out by now that if you want to create retention at all costs, you're going to have to really put some serious effort into the production of your videos. You got to pay attention to all the details. I mean, if you're going to spend all the time, energy, and oftentimes money to make a great video, don't you want it to not only find the right audience, but for that audience to stick around until the end? I know I do. You've got all the secrets to retention, but there's one more thing: how you present yourself on camera. Without mastering this, all the retention strategies in the world won't help, because if you suck on camera, no one's going to want to stick around and watch anyway. Dan, what? It's true.